Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, we hear a lot about gifts, especially this time of year, but there's a gift that goes on year-round, and that's a gift of blood. And today we're focusing on the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks, and joining me is Chris Pilgrim. Thank you for being here today.
Judy, thanks. It's a pleasure.
This is something that we've heard about the Community Blood Center for a number of years, but let's have a little background for our viewers. They may not realize how long you've been around.
Yeah, we started in 1995, so we celebrated our 25th anniversary a year or two ago, so we're working on 22 years now, and our sole responsibility for being here is to serve the community's blood needs. In the past, remember, the organization was formed that was served by the American Red Cross. Some local leaders decided that it could be done better, and maybe local control was a better idea in terms of controlling the blood and the amount it goes out and to whom it goes. So Community Blood Center was founded on the principles of four things, really. Safety of the blood supply, so a quality product at the lowest reasonable cost, because cost is a determining factor, and that's what actually got us started, is the cost of the blood. Accountability to the community, and that's another mission focus. Also, that we're accountable to local community blood care providers, and that we're timely. You know, all the blood in the world is well and good unless it's not on the shelf when it's needed, and that can be a problem. So safety, accountability, timeliness, and those things are why we were formed back in 1995.
Now, you're a blood center of the Ozarks, so define Ozarks for us. That can be pretty broad in many people's minds.
It really is. You know, our home base is in Springfield, Missouri, but we have 4 donor centers, one in Springfield, one in Joplin, at the North Park Mall, believe it or not. That turns out to be a great place, by the way, for people to donate blood. They're out shopping, perhaps somebody's waiting for somebody to finish shopping, and it's just something you can do in less than an hour.
Down to the shop and
kill a little time when you're walking around the mall. So it's turned out to be a good donor center location. Then we've got one donor center in Bentonville, Arkansas, one donor center in Springdale, Arkansas.
Okay.
And we serve patients at 39 area hospitals in 39 counties. And if you think of it, about from Rolla, Lake of the Ozarks area, on down all the Springfield hospitals, all the hospitals in Joplin, Branson, go down into northwest Arkansas in that little 4-county region of northwest Arkansas, Springdale, Bentonville area. We serve all the hospitals there too, about 12 there. So 39 in all, and it's important to note, and we hang our hats on the fact that we're the sole blood provider of those places. They don't get their blood from any place else, so it's a big responsibility for us. We need about 225 donations each and every day to meet a day's needs, and kind of like the old Dunkin' Donuts commercial. You know, the guy gets up at 4 in the morning, it's time to make donuts. Well, for us, it's time to get the blood in.
Right.
And we've got to get 200 in, and we do that each and every day, and we're quite proud of our service record and proud to be serving the community.
Great. Well, I know we have a map that shows the service area, help people visualize the counties and what you're reaching, but that's a lot of space or a lot of land to cover as far as trying to serve the community when you look at the map.
There they are, yeah, and we do blood drives in all those counties as well. There's 3 over there in southeast Kansas, 5 in northwest Arkansas, including over in Boone County with Harrison, and the rest are in Missouri. But our vehicles travel over 1 million miles a year in just those 39 counties, getting people to the blood drive, getting equipment to the blood drive, bringing the blood back, distributing the blood, things like that. So it's a lot of miles to travel, and like I say, a great responsibility, but we're really proud of what we do.
Right. Now, people might be curious, operate as a not-for-profit organization as well?
Yeah, we're a 501c3 not-for-profit, and we're a cost recovery operation. We charge hospitals, and therefore patients, as much as it costs us to gather, test, distribute the blood products. So our end result is to hope to have a zero balance at the end of the year, and that's another one of our mission tenets is accountability. We want that number, and we reach it generally.
Right. Now, the statistics on blood donations, I mean, you talk about needing a couple hundred each day, but on a yearly basis, what are we talking about? How much blood do you look for a year? 60,000 a year, just in this local area, and that's red cells alone. There are different types of donations. You can donate just plasma. You can donate platelets, another component of your blood. But in terms of red cell production, we need about 55 to 60,000 units per year. That's a lot. So there's a lot behind the scenes, I guess I call it logistics, as far as organizing all of this.
You know, it's a large organization. We've got about 200 employees. Most of those employees are donor room services people, the people you would see out on the blood drive, the phlebotomists and the medical personnel there. But all the things that you would think a large organization would need. You know, you've got drivers to get that equipment and those people from place to place. You have accounting, you have our testing lab, you have distribution, which is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You've got a what you would call a sales force, right? The donor recruiters that go out and set up drives at businesses and churches and schools and things like that. That's a kind of a sales position.
Right, promotions.
And administration, you've got your executive director, and you've got quality control, and you've got administration and building operations, and just on and on and on. But right around 200 employees in total.
Now, of course, anytime you're dealing with health items, and I imagine blood, that you still have strict regulations you have to follow that are not handed to you. The government or somebody saying, you have to do these things to do it right.
Oh, sure. Blood is considered a pharmaceutical by the Food and Drug Administration, and therefore we fall under their guidelines. So the FDA tells us what to do, when to do it. They inspect us up to twice a year. Other inspection facilities include the European Union, where we send some of our plasma. The American Association of Blood Banks, the AABB, comes in and inspects us. But they give us the guidelines, and we put standard operating procedures in place to follow those guidelines to the letter.
Right. Well, let's talk about the donation process. You mentioned the Joplin Center. I think we have some photos that shows some of the facilities in the Joplin and so forth. As you mentioned, North Park Mall. Someone wants to give blood. Do they need to make an appointment? Do they just walk in and say they're shopping and say, hey, I've got some time to kill, can I give some blood? What do you recommend?
They could do it either way. If they're going to be strapped for time and they know they're going to be there at a certain time, they can sure make an appointment with us. And you can do that by going to our website at cbco.org, and you can make an appointment there to donate anywhere, any upcoming blood drive. An appointment can be made. If you want to walk in off the street, you can do that as well. The requirements for giving blood are that you be at least 16 years of age. Now, 16-year-olds need specific written parental permission. And that's a form you can download on our website as well. So
they'll have to have their parent sign and say, they're still a minor, but I allow this.
But 17 and up, you're okay to go. And, interestingly, there is no upper age limit to donate blood. And we have many donors, 70, even 80 years old, that still come in and donate. If you're feeling good and healthy, if you haven't given blood in the past 56 days, if you weigh at least 110 pounds, and if you fit those age requirements, you're eligible to save lives.
Right. So when you come into a center to give blood, what do people expect? I'm sure there's a registration process, a certain step that you go through.
Yeah, I'll give you the process in just a minute. I can tell you my experience with donating blood. I started working at the Blood Center about 15 years ago, and I hadn't ever given. Here I am, a 40-year-old man. I've never given blood before.
What am I gonna do?
I'm a little ashamed of that, but the reason that I didn't give is the number one reason people don't give, and that's because nobody asked them to. They weren't asked to. You never think about it really, right? It's just something that operates.
Somebody's doing it, it's okay.
Operates in the background, and you hope it's going to be there if you get in trouble, right? But so I decided I'd better do it because I'm going to be working there and I'm going to be talking about it, and I need to know what I'm saying. So the number one thing that I found was that it really doesn't hurt very much. Lots of people are afraid of needles. In fact, if you're not afraid of needles, I'd say that's a
common human fear,
different
right?
thing all in itself, right? But it really didn't hurt. I was kind of a little trepidatious about it hurting, but kind of a stick and sting when the needle goes in, and then there's really not much pain. The blood donation itself is done in about 5 to 10 minutes, so it didn't hurt. The number two thing, and probably the more profound thing that I felt is that whenever I walked away, at some point during that day, later on in that day, I looked at that.
Did they put a little patch or Band-Aid on there?
Band-Aid on my arm, and I said, that was easy. That took about an hour out of my day, and I'm going to have a real positive effect on somebody. And so it gives you a real lift mentally, too. And if I could tell anybody about that would be what I'd say, is you will feel great after giving blood. It doesn't take anything out of you physically, but really it's just a great feeling knowing that you helped somebody. It didn't cost you anything except some of your time, and it, like I say, it has a profound effect on our friends and neighbors. So
somewhere there's someone in a hospital who the doctor says, we need to get some blood for this person.
That's right, exactly. And that could be my blood that goes to them, and it just makes me feel great. So to answer your question, though, the process, if you've never given before and you come in, you'll sit down and you'll provide a photo ID. They'll register you in our system. They'll give you a series of questions to ask, or questions to answer. About 50 questions. They're all yes/no questions, and what we're trying to determine is if the blood that you're about to give is of good quality or not.
So kind of health history questions.
Yeah, stuff like, are you feeling well today? Some of the questions are personal. We ask about, have you ever exchanged money or drugs for sex? And questions like that are, again, we're not meaning to pry, and the questions will be kept private, but we're meaning to ascertain whether the blood you're about to give is of good quality or not.
Screening process.
It's a screening process. This is a question and answer period. So you answer those questions. After that, you go into a room where we'll give you a mini physical. We want to know if not only the questions that we ask are okay, but we want to know if you're really healthy or not. So we'll take your temperature, your pulse, your blood pressure. We'll take a drop of blood out of your finger to test it for its iron level or hemoglobin level. You have to have a certain level in order to donate blood. So we'll test all those things, and if that's all okay, then you go over to the donor lounge and recline and relax for 5 or 10 minutes. We'll take about a pint of blood. After that, it's over to the refreshment area for some juice and cookies, and you're on your way. So start to finish, the whole process, 45 minutes usually. If we're crowded, can be up to an hour, but it's really short considering the impact you're going to have.
So once someone's in the system, they go through that initial screening, then you have their background. You don't have to do quite as much of a long check-in process.
Well, you'll get a donor card with your blood type on it, and you'll still have to answer the questions. You'll still have to go through the mini physical the next time, and every time you donate, really, that's a good idea.
Something's changed in someone's life.
To see if something's changed, exactly. So yeah, you still have to go through those questions, but like I say, it's really kind of a streamlined process and something our donors kind of enjoy.
Now, I know I see news releases that come out from your organization, and they'll say, there's certain code yellow alert for O negative and A negative. People might say, I don't know what kind of blood I have. Is that one of the things they'll leave there knowing what type of blood they have?
Absolutely, yeah. You'll get a card that will have your blood type on it. And the most common blood type in the country is O positive. About 38% of the country has type O positive blood. About 31% is A positive. So you take those two together, almost 70% of the country is either A positive or O positive. You would think we would run short on that type of blood, but it all works out that the blood on the shelf, it's going to be proportional to the population of the country, right? So usually enough of those types. Negative blood types, O negative in particular, is where we usually run into shortage areas. And O negative is unique in the fact that it can be given to anybody at any time. So if a car wreck victim, for instance, comes into Mercy, they need blood immediately, and the trauma staff on hand don't have time to get a blood type, right?
We've got to
they need
start
blood
that process
right now. So they'll grab O negative off the shelf. As a result, even though O negative is only 6% of the population, it's used more than its fair share. So we're usually short on O negative. A negative is another type we're usually short on. So we inform the public about this by using the stoplight system. If we've got at least a 3-day supply on hand, we consider that condition green, and so it's all go. Everything's good. If we've got less than a 2-day supply on hand, we'll issue a code yellow alert. If you ever go by the donor center in Joplin in the North Park Mall, you'll see a stoplight up there, and it will have the different colors on for whatever we need. Usually negative blood types, O negative is pretty prevalent and usually in short supply. If we ever reach a supply where we've got less than a 1-day supply, we'll issue a code red alert. And that's really a different thing than the other two. That is something that could really impact the community if a major accident occurs, something like a Joplin tornado or something like that.
You need a lot of blood now.
We need a lot now. We need to have it on hand. So we like to have at least a 3-day supply, and we use the stoplight system to inform the public about our needs.
So we had a picture on the screen just a few moments ago showing the Joplin Center as people recognize, I call it the storefront look. But you have, that
right by the food court. That's the way I tell everybody where it is.
Go eat and go give your blood. And vice versa, tying that together. So the different types of donations, you mentioned that you can give different types of blood. When someone comes in, do they just basically draw the blood and then they separate what you want out of it? Or how do you?
Depends on the blood type of the person. If they're a type O negative person, we want to get their red cells. So there's processes that we can undergo to where we can get that O negative donor to give a double dose of red cells. And the way we do that is through a program or a process called apheresis. We'll take the whole blood out, put it into an instrument, we spin that blood to separate its component parts. Then we'll harvest what we need or what we want, and we'll put the other components back into the So smaller gauge needle helps that person to feel a little better, and under some circumstances might allow them to be able to donate more often than every 56 days. So we do that for red cells. If you're a type AB donor, what we need really from you is your plasma, because just as O negative is the universal type for red cells, AB blood is the universal type for plasma. You can give it to anybody at any time. So it's in demand. We might have you give a double or triple dose of plasma if you're an AB blood donor. So we try to balance the area's needs, and this is really relatively new, what we're doing in terms of taking just one product and giving the others back. Is we're really trying to carefully balance inventory because we don't want to waste a drop. And so the best thing for a donor to do potentially is to leave it up to us. We've got a sign in our building that will tell you what we're looking for that particular day, match it up to your particular blood type, and go from there. So it's become a really specialized process, but it has allowed us to control our inventory very carefully so we don't waste a drop.
Now, you mentioned the Joplin tornado. Disasters come up. We hear a lot of times of, disaster, and there's immediate call, we need blood. Do you find that creates, obviously, a spike in giving, probably, at those times?
It really does. And I can use the Joplin tornado as a great example. Whenever that happened, how many years ago now?
5 years. Yeah.
5 years ago.
5
Okay, whenever that happened 5 years ago, we had enough blood on the shelf. We were able to meet the immediate needs. But whenever the word went out that we need blood, you would be amazed at the number of people that showed up. They showed up in Springfield. They showed up at mobile drives. The blood center in Joplin at the North Park Mall was open, I think, 12 hours a day for a few days after it, because there were lines of people lined up to give. And I would say this, that's great. We had to turn some people away because the shelf life of red cells is 42 days.
How long can you keep that blood if you get an
40,
oversupply?
42 days for red cells, and platelets even shorter, up to only 5 days on that. So, so we found ourselves telling some people to
come back in a couple of weeks.
Come in a couple of weeks. We'll need you in a couple of weeks, but thank you so much. But tremendous support from the area. But you also think about it, the people in Joplin and the aftermath of the tornado and the victims that needed blood, they got blood that was already on the shelves. People coming in after the fact is great. We love that, but we've got to keep enough on the shelves at all time to meet those needs.
So when those emergencies come in, they're ready.
Exactly. It takes a day or two to get that blood on the shelves, so through the testing and all that. So we want to keep that supply on hand, and I would just ask people that think about us in times not necessarily emergency or disaster ready, and we'll do a lot better.
So holidays, certain times of the year when it's cold or the weather's bad, does that affect the blood giving levels? 2
times we typically have shortages occur. One time is in the summer. That's because school's out. We get a lot of our blood from schools. So we pull out the stops on promotional efforts and things like that to get people in the door. Another time is holidays. Time between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day can be a difficult time, and if you think about it, it's not really surprising why, right? We're out of school, so there's no school blood drives. Also, people aren't necessarily thinking about donating blood, right? They're thinking about what they're doing for the holidays, their relatives coming over, where they're going, and so sometimes we're neglected a little bit. So we really try to put ourselves out in the community during those times and let people know that, hey, blood giving and blood needs of the area really have no holidays. So we need you now, we need you every day.
Now, you mentioned the process. Once someone gives blood at the center, then it all goes back to Springfield?
Yeah.
So kind of help people visualize what happens from there.
Sure. I'll take a whole blood donation, which we typically would take whenever we're out in the Joplin Center, out at a place. A whole blood donation comes back to our center, where we will separate its component parts. We'll put it in a big centrifuge and spin it down and take our platelets over here, our plasma over here, and our red cells over here. And at the same time that is happening, we have sent test tubes of each blood to a testing facility. Now, the equipment to test blood for bloodborne illnesses and pathogens is very expensive. We can't afford it. So we send it to Dallas, Texas every day on an airplane. Those test tubes go to Dallas, Texas. They're testing the blood while we're processing it. Whenever the blood comes back okay, as it does in the vast majority of circumstances, we'll release that blood for issue to the general hospital. But each of those
blood donors is coded, so you know that John Doe's case number 45, that's their blood or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if a flag is brought up via the testing process, we'll quarantine that donation. We may do a look back on it. We may do additional testing. We'll contact the donor to tell them what we found, if we found anything that could affect their health. And so it's a process that's going on continually every single day. It really is pretty quick, though. The blood you give today could be on the shelves as soon as tomorrow through our testing. And depending on the day of the week. So it's really a pretty quick process to get that to the public.
Now, we've heard a lot this past year about the Zika virus and blood-borne diseases and so forth. Is this a new challenge or a new aspect that you have to look at?
I have never seen the Food and Drug Administration move so quickly on something that they found. And it goes to show the seriousness or potential seriousness of the Zika virus. Back in August, the Food and Drug Administration mandated that we're going to begin testing for Zika. And blood centers in the immediate area, you have to begin testing immediately. blood centers in the other continent of the United States have to begin testing by November. So mid-November was the date, and we are now testing along with every other blood manufacturer in the country for the Zika virus, and that's just another test on top of the ones that we do already.
So it probably reflects our mobile society that you may be giving blood even though you may have traveled to one of those places where there's that disease to worry about.
Right. Now, testing for the Zika virus removed a question from our questionnaire, and it was something that was knocking a few people out, especially in the summer. We asked the people, have you been to Florida?
Summer vacations.
Summer vacations, a lot of that's going on, right? So if they have been to Florida, we drill down then and try to ascertain where they've been. If they've been to Miami, Dade County, where the Food and Drug Administration said, hey, this is getting pretty prevalent, we ask them to wait 30 days before donation. If they've traveled out of the country, we ask that they wait 30 days before donation. So by removal of this particular question, we're hopeful that a few more people will be added to the potential blood donor rolls, and we can increase participation.
Now, the donor rolls, the people who have become registered, do you keep in touch with them when their number of days are getting time? You can give again now, your time period's up, to have friendly reminders? We have
a number of different ways that we get in touch with people. We can do it by email, we can do it via text message, we can do it via a phone call. We'll tell you about promotional events. The best thing I tell people to do is just go to our website again, cbco.org. You can find upcoming promotional events. You can also log into your account. By creating an account, you get to accrue life points. You get to establish life points, which is our reward system. Right. But you also get a good record of how you are, of how you're progressing. Right, your physical attributes or the things that we measure during your physical examination there at the blood center are available online.
So we'll show you your blood pressure, your pulse, and
if
things.
You become a regular donor, though, and you've got that information at your hand, every single time you have come in to donate blood, you know what your vitals are, right? So you can maybe see something that is not normal and go to the doctor and find out. We've had many donors that have found out that they have been sick via the testing that we've done. They go, my blood pressure is really up this time, I better go check it. And they'll find that indeed something was wrong with you. So it's another positive that we hope to offer donors through that. So yeah, they get to be really in tune with their cells physically by donating blood.
Now, the Life Points program, that's where you call it a rewards program?
Yeah, think of airline miles. It's something you get for using your credit card. Right. Every time you donate blood, we issue Life Points to your account. You can trade in your Life Points whenever you have accrued enough on things like, little things like a Starbucks gift card or Dairy Queen or Andy's Frozen Custard or something like that. All the way up to you can get a $25 Visa gift card when you build up enough points. Another thing you can do with your Life Points, and this is something we introduced about a year ago, is our program called Life Points Lift. If you don't really give a hoot about your points and about getting the gift cards and things, you can make your donation go a little further in the community by offering your Life Points up to an area charity. We have 10 area charities that we've selected, and you can it's as easy to click away. I want to give this to Ozarks Food Harvest, for instance. Right. And those points will be accrued. We'll give them cash for the amount of points that they get. So a lot of donors do it for the good it makes them feel, and the good in the
someone
community.
Else in another
this
way.
is an extension of that, is having your donation go a little further.
Great. Now, you mentioned blood drives and the emphasis on schools and organizations. Somebody who's watching wants to put on a blood drive, maybe a company or something. What's the process they would go through and say, well, maybe we should offer this for our employees or our students?
Call us, 1-800-280-5337. Say you'd like to have a blood drive. People ask me all the time, what's a good place to have a blood drive? Anywhere where people congregate is a great place. We do lots of blood drives at schools, churches, organizations, businesses. Any place where people congregate is a great place to hold a drive. All we need is a champion at that place. We need a volunteer that's going to volunteer to get people to donate, to directly ask them to donate, to put up the posters, to try to remind people in their circle that, hey, this drive's coming up and it's so important. So
do you recommend that in what I call the outlying areas? Either you have a center in Joplin and one in Springfield, maybe those communities in between the two towns where people aren't likely to drive maybe to the cities, that you reach those?
We do blood drives in towns all over the Ozarks. You know, I probably, if you name me a town in the area, we do a blood drive there at some point during the year. So that's something you can get, again, by looking us up on our website. We've got a blood drive locator. You can find a drive coming up. And if you want to hold a drive, we'll try to either put one out on its own, say you're in a smaller town, or we may try to fold you into another drive that's established in that community already. But if you want to help maintain the local blood supply, we'll find a way for you to do it.
I know, looking at your news releases in the past, sometimes you'll have a little friendly competition on blood drives too. You know, maybe it's this organization versus that, or different themes. You know, pick your favorite team or something.
People love to compete, and that's what we found. We have blood drives involving our local baseball teams and our local universities, and fraternal and sorority organizations within the universities. And sometimes they really get into the competition, and again, that's a really good thing for us. If we can boost the blood supply, but by that spirit of competition, we sure want to do that.
Right. Now, the end result, obviously you're giving blood to people. So briefly, maybe an example of a people story, how somebody has come to you maybe and said, hey, this made a difference in my life. I got blood thanks to somebody giving. Yeah,
we can't call the hospital and say, hey, who used blood today? Because of HIPAA violations and regulations and that kind of type of thing. So we rely a lot on word of mouth. And we do have people call us up and tell us thank you and want to know who the people are that donated for them. And while we can't do that, we can tell them that people like these people donated for them. And for instance, I did an interview recently with a young man that had a motorcycle wreck in War Eagle, Arkansas, down in northwest Arkansas. He used 70, 80, 100 units of blood in his fight for survival. And you know, without those 70 or 80 people there giving blood, it wouldn't have been a good result. So those things are happening every day. You know, the cancer patient that gets chemotherapy, the chemotherapy affects your body's ability to produce platelets, which is a component of blood. So we do platelet replacement therapy with people with cancer. Small children get blood for childhood leukemia, things like that. Premature babies that are born prematurely need tiny amounts of blood. Specialized, by the way. It has to be O negative and have another thing added to it, negative for cytomegalovirus. So, but yeah, if you live to, here's something that probably provides the most impact. If you live to age 70, there's a 90% chance that you're going to need blood at some point in your life. Now think about that, and then think about friends, neighbors, people you know. You've been touched by blood whether you know it or not, because somebody you know has used it, or you have used it, or a member of your family has used it. It's just as simple as that. It touches us all. It's something that we're all going to need or benefit from at some point. So we really try to keep enough on the shelves. Right.
Keeping the people in mind who are getting it at the end, the difference it makes in their lives.
Truly rewarding, not only for donors, but for employees of the Blood Center too. You know, that's we feel good at the end of the day because it really helps somebody, as any medical or hospital employee would. You know, it's a great feeling to know that you help somebody.
And blood's one of those things you really can't do it substitute. You have to have the blood.
No, they're working on substitutes, by the way, and they've been working on them for 30 years. But if you think about it, little bitty oxygen-carrying components,
it's only within your body.
It can't be replicated, or they at least they haven't yet. They'll continue to try, but in the meantime, no. You're right. There is no substitute.
For someone who tuned in a little bit late, let's remind them how to get in touch with you, how to get more information.
Sure. Joplin Donor Center at the North Park Mall is open 11 to 6, Monday through Friday. If you want to donate blood and you're in a rural area, or you're not planning on coming to the North Park Mall very soon, go to our website, cbco.org. There is a Donate Now button at the top of the website. Click that, and you can find a blood drive coming to your area by date range, by blood drive name, by city, by county. And it'll list all the drives that are coming up and all the opportunities you have to save lives. So that's the way to do it. And if you have any questions at all about the donation process, you can call us. You can also, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and all the social media accounts.
Contacts as well.
Our hashtag, by the way, is Ozarks Blood. And if you like us on Facebook, that would be a thing too. Facebook's turned out to be a really good way for us to get word out immediately. If we have some immediate needs, put that on Facebook, and boy, they'll show up. And we really appreciate that. So we try to make it fun. It's a serious subject, but the giving part is makes you feel so much good. And it's so much fun, and we try to keep it fun.
Well, Chris, I'd like to thank you very much for coming to the studio and sharing information today.
Judy, it's a pleasure. I thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for tuning in this week. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.